Are you unsure about how to venture into mixed media? Or maybe you're just unsure what the term means? Well, today I'd like to help. Hey crafty people, it's Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you aren't already subscribed, I would love it if you could consider hitting that button. As June's guest designer for the mixed media blog for Altenew, I've kind of stepped away from my comfort zone and I'm going to show you how I created this art journal double spread. I'm starting with a thin layer of gesso just to prime the paper. It really helps to support it whilst I throw several layers of mediums at it. It's a really basic step, but it also forms the foundation upon which you are going to place your creation. So I've got some white gouache there on my glass mat, and I'm adding some of the Lagoon re-inker to it. So this is the crisp dye ink formulation, and I do add a tiny little bit of water just to help loosen it a little, so I can get a better mix. But I'm going to apply this to my page with a dry brush. So that means that I haven't dipped the brush into any water, anything like that. The only thing that's on it is the paint itself. Doing this, first of all, it works to give me a base colour on which to lay my elements, but using the dry brush means there's loads of really beautiful texture, and you can see the strokes in each of the individual bristles within the paint. Next, I'm grabbing an ink spray in this vibrant, beautiful blue, and I'm going to spray it twice, once on each page. So I love the fact that I get the splatter effect. I just like to spritz it once, and whatever comes out and lands on the page is what is on my page. So in fact I loved the splatter effect from the ink spray so much that I grabbed one of my watercolour brush markers. This is the one in Lagoon, and I used an old card just to flick some of the colour over my whole background to give me some of the Lagoon splatter as well, to tie the two blues together. Then I did leave it for about an hour at that point to ensure that the background was completely dry before I moved on. Next up, I'm grabbing the Cherry Blossom re-inker set, and I'm going to use Pinkalicious and Razzleberry. So they are colours number 2 and 4 from that family. I'm going to mix 3 drops of each into some texture paste. Again, just mixing that up on my glass mat. At this time I've got plastic like spatula spreader things. Then I'm going to grab the Mighty Corners stencil, and I'm going to apply this texture paste to my journal page with that stencil. So I sort of mix the 2 different shades, intending to get an ombre effect when I applied the 2, but to be honest, once it was dry, that didn't really come through in the final piece. So yeah, you can't really see that there's the two colours, but I did make 2. Also, here where I'm doing it at the bottom, the texture paste also sort of reactivated a bit of that blue ink spray. So in places I actually got more of a purple hue, but although this wasn't intentional, I actually really like how that turned out, and I'm quite happy with how that worked, because that still gave me the differences in colour that I was expecting to get from the 2 different pastes. So I angled my stencil to direct the eye into the centre of my page, because this is where I'm intending to add my sentiment. I added 1 set of arrows on each page just to make sure that the whole piece felt balanced. With the last bit of paste that I had on my spatula, I just added some to the bottom left corner, just like a smear. I just really enjoy working with odd numbers of any given element. So I am cleaning my stencil right away, because the paste will dry on there and it will ruin your stencil. So there is some staining to the stencil, but that's fine, that's not going to affect it, how it works or anything at all. So to give me some more texture, I've grabbed out, this is the Stone Mosaic layering set. So I just grabbed one of the stamps that have got the sort of spots on rather than the solid one, and I'm just using my hand to stamp different parts of that down onto my page everywhere I feel like I need it. Initially I tried a deep blue, but I wanted more contrast, so I switched to the Obsidian pigment ink. And using my hand like this to stamp down, that is a wonderful tip that I picked up from my dear friend Colleen of Irish Rose Creations in one of her workshops, which it's awesome. I really loved it, how this works. So whilst I'm stamping that out, now I think would be a good time to hit that like button if you're enjoying this video. If you aren't already subscribed, then we'd love for you to join this community that we've got. We post a wide variety of video inspiration, so you are sure to find something which sparks your own creativity. Once I was happy with how much stamping there was on there, I set all that off to dry whilst I worked on some flowers that I wanted on my set. I'm using the Floral Doodles die set, and I've cut both layers of each flower multiple times from a thick black cardstock. So I've grabbed out my metallic watercolour pan set here. So although the cardstock that I've used isn't watercolour paper, it will be fine with the amount of water that I'm putting on, because it is a nice thick cardstock. So I'm going to paint the detail layer in a solid metallic, and then I added splatters of each of the colours onto the base layers of the flowers, and also onto the art journal spread itself, just to give me little pops of metallic on there. Often we view mixed media as having to be something really scary or involved or messy, and it really doesn't have to. It can be, and sometimes that's fun. That's why I have my art journal. I love just sometimes just to get that feeling of freedom that I get when working in here. But mixed media doesn't have to be that. You probably use mixed media all the time. Actual definition of mixed media is just using more than one media or medium on whatever you're making. So if you stamped a flower and then you've coloured it in with some artist markers, that's mixed media. You've done some stamping and some colouring. If you emboss a sentiment for that card or that art journal page, there's another one. And I think that if you look at it like that, you'll realise that you actually use mixed media a lot more than you think, and it's really not as scary as it can feel sometimes. So if you've not used this metallic watercolour pan set before, or if you have, and you were wondering why you didn't get quite as much metallic or shine as you wanted, then basically the best advice that I can give you when you use this set is to add a couple of drops of water into whichever paint pan you are intending to use, and then let this sit for a few minutes. Use a wet brush to sort of agitate the paint, add in some more drops of water if needed. So this allows the pigments to fully wake up, so to say, and it'll give you the best colour and shine payoff, and it really, really does make a difference. They are much more metallic and vibrant, and they're just beautiful. So I'm just using a few dots of glue to adhere the two layers together. And what I like to do is I add some dots of glue to the detail layer, and then I just tap that onto some scrap paper just to get some of the excess glue off, so that it doesn't sort of squidge out all over my base layer when I put them together. And I set those off to the side to dry, and now I'm going to create my sentiment. And for this, I love to use my label maker. I really like the look of the printed tapes on my pages, but also I love that I can customize it to exactly what I want to say. I use my art journal as a sort of visual diary. I translate my feelings and my thoughts into art on the page, and I like to include quotes or lyrics or random words. Anything which I feel I need to release, I release onto an art journal page, and that really, really helps me. It's a little bit more freeing, and it's a really good way to experiment with different techniques or mediums that you would normally be too nervous to use. So I just put down on my page whatever I grab, whatever I feel like, and I have a little rule with myself that I will never take a page out. So if I'm not happy with one of the spreads, then that's because I haven't finished it yet. So I always go back to finish. So the quote that I've got on there today is, "Remember, you teach others how to treat you. Teach them what you are worth." And I just really felt like that was something that I needed to remind myself at the moment. So I originally had the sentiment spread out like this, but as you'll see from the photos in a minute, I did actually go back and change it because I didn't like them spread out. I put them more towards the middle because, again, if you don't like it, maybe it's just because you haven't finished it yet. So I really hope that you liked the video, that it gave you some ideas of how to go about creating something like this, and just have fun. Just, it doesn't matter. You don't ever have to show anyone if you don't want to. I really hope that you did like the video, and if you did, then please do give me a thumbs up, and I would love to chat with you in the comments, so I shall see you there. Have a lovely, happy, safe, wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.